What if everything you thought you knew about Lisa and Frédéric Arnault changed in just one unexpected moment on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and the world didn't even realize how big it was at first? Before we go any further, let me ask you this. Did you notice the one detail during their appearance that made fans completely lose their minds? Or did it slip past you like it did for so many others? Stay with this story, because what happened that night wasn't just another celebrity interview. It might have been the start of something far more powerful than anyone expected. And if you're already curious, make sure you're ready to dive deep, because this moment is still being decoded by fans around the world. Don't forget to share your thoughts, hit like, and subscribe, because this story only gets more intense the further you go. The moment the cameras turned on, the atmosphere inside the studio shifted instantly. There was something different in the air, something you could feel even before a single word was spoken. The audience wasn't just excited, they were alert, almost as if they knew they were about to witness something rare. When Lisa walked onto the stage, the reaction was explosive, but controlled, like a wave that knew exactly when to crash. Her presence was calm, confident, and undeniably magnetic. Then Frédéric Arnault followed, and suddenly, the energy changed again. This wasn't just a businessman stepping into an entertainment space. This was someone who carried influence from a completely different world, stepping into a spotlight that rarely overlaps with his own. And when those two worlds met on that stage, it created a tension that no one could ignore. Jimmy Kimmel welcomed them with his usual relaxed charm, but even he seemed aware that this wasn't going to be a typical conversation. He began with light questions, guiding the discussion gently, letting both guests settle in. Lisa spoke about her journey, her global reach, and the way her career continues to evolve. Her voice was steady, warm, and captivating, drawing the audience in with every sentence. Frederic responded with a completely different tone, measured, thoughtful, and surprisingly personal. He spoke about vision, about innovation, about understanding influence in a modern world. But even as he spoke, there was something else happening beneath the surface, something that couldn't quite be explained with words alone. And then came the moment. It was subtle, almost too subtle. A question that sounded simple, but carried weight far beyond its surface. Jimmy leaned in slightly and asked about their connection, how they met, what brought them together, and what it meant for them to be sitting side by side on that stage. There was a pause. Not long, but enough. Lisa turned slightly, her eyes meeting Frederic's for just a second. It was quick, almost unnoticeable if you weren't paying attention. But fans noticed, and that single glance became the moment everyone couldn't stop talking about. Lisa answered first. She spoke about shared understanding, about respect, about connecting across different worlds. Her words were elegant, but they left room for interpretation. Was it purely professional? Or was there something deeper behind the way she chose her words? Frederic followed, his tone calm but carrying a quiet intensity. He spoke about admiration, about how Lisa represents more than just music or fame. She represents influence that transcends industries. But again, it wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. The slight pause before certain words. The subtle shift in expression. The way he looked at her, even for just a fraction of a second longer than expected. As the conversation continued, the dynamic between them became impossible to ignore. It wasn't forced. It wasn't exaggerated. It was natural, and that's exactly what made it so powerful. Fans watching around the world immediately began analyzing everything. Every frame, every word, every reaction. Social media exploded with theories, clips, and discussions. Some believed it was a strategic collaboration between two powerful figures. Others were convinced they had just witnessed something far more personal. And that's what made this moment unforgettable. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Because sometimes, the quietest moments are the ones that speak the loudest. But what happened next made everything even more intense. After that brief exchange, the conversation subtly shifted direction. Jimmy, sensing the growing curiosity in the room, began asking questions that were slightly more personal, but still wrapped in humor. The audience laughed, but there was an underlying tension that never fully disappeared. Lisa responded with grace, occasionally smiling in a way that felt both genuine and carefully measured. Frederic, meanwhile, seemed more relaxed than before, as if the earlier question had already broken whatever barrier might have existed. At one point, a lighthearted joke from Jimmy led to an unexpected reaction. Lisa laughed, turning slightly toward Frederic as if instinctively sharing the moment with him. It lasted less than a second, but it was enough. That brief interaction sent fans into another wave of speculation. Why did she look at him like that? Why did he respond with that subtle nod and smile? These were the kinds of questions that turned a simple interview into something far more intriguing. The camera angles didn't help calm the situation either. Every close-up seemed to capture something new, a glance, a shift in posture, a micro-expression that could be interpreted in multiple ways. It was as if the entire segment had become a puzzle, with each piece revealing just enough to keep viewers guessing, but never enough to give them a clear answer. And then there was the silence. Not the obvious kind, but the kind that exists between words. The pauses that feel heavier than the sentences themselves. In those moments, the energy between Lisa and Frederic became even more noticeable. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't entirely casual either. It was something in between, something that felt real. As the segment approached its end, Jimmy made one final attempt to lighten the mood, shifting the conversation back to safer territory. But by then, it was too late. The audience had already felt it. The viewers at home had already seen it. Whatever that it was, it had already made its impact. When the applause filled the studio and the cameras began to pull back, there was a sense that something had just happened, something that couldn't easily be explained or categorized. It wasn't a headline yet. It wasn't a confirmed story. But it was a moment. And moments like that don't disappear. They grow. Within minutes, clips from the interview began circulating online. Fans slowed down videos, zoomed into frames, and shared their interpretations. Some pointed out the timing of certain responses. Others focused on body language. A few even compared this appearance to previous public moments involving both Lisa and Frederic, searching for patterns, connections, anything that could provide clarity. But clarity never came. Instead, the mystery deepened. And maybe that's what made it so powerful. Because in a world where everything is constantly explained, analyzed, and defined, this was something different. This was a moment that refused to be fully understood, a moment that invited questions instead of answers. So now, the question remains. Did we just watch a carefully crafted public appearance designed to spark conversation? Or did we witness something genuine, something unplanned, something that slipped through the cracks of a perfectly controlled environment? Whatever your answer is, one thing is certain. People are still talking about it. And they will be for a long time. So, what do you think really happened on that stage? Did you catch the details others missed? Or are you just beginning to see it now? Share your thoughts, join the conversation, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story is far from over.